Well, this is hopefully actually running live now. It does say live in 28 minutes on the YouTube stream, but I'm hoping it'll actually start. Yep, cool. Well, this is hopefully... There we go. Just checking on an alternate device that it was working, and it is. So, excellent. Right. I know I said I'd be online by 9 and try and start as early as I can. If you've seen the intro video, I've not done much towards the DOTJAM. By the time I got home from work, I had tea and had to play with the toy that arrived. Being truthful, really all I've done is my initial development stuff is usually I do it in Z80ASM, which is the Z88DK assembler. So I've got I had a bit of an hiccup though, because I didn't have my editor I use is GEDIT. For some reason the syntax highlighting one in it, because I've recently upgraded my machine and it's changed where it stores the language highlighting. So if here's where I'm going to base my dot command on, is going to be either the date.asm or time.asm commands, which are in the distribution. Obviously I wrote date and time previously, so that's already a working dot command to base it on. I put a couple of useful books in the air so we can look at them together. I've got them physically here in front of me as well, for Z80 and for the interface one. So we'll go over what I'm planning on doing on the 9 o'clock stream in a bit more detail, but this is really sort of getting it warmed up and letting people join the stream if they're interested. If not, you can, if you're watching it in playback, pardon any mistakes or complete confusion on what I'm doing. Hopefully the audio's okay, and if it drops, remind me. Sometimes I've got to go in and actually check that the audio is on the stream is still running, especially if I have to turn the next off. I've got to reboot the capture card, and that dumps the stream audio, and I'm going to reset the screen size for the capture. So anyway, going back to the story, if I just open date.asm with GEDIT, you can see it's in the Dracula colour scheme, which is my default. I think it's called Dracula anyway, I can never remember what it's called. Scheme, what's it called? Yeah, Dracula, there you go. So, but now it's got highlighted colours on the different commands, so you can see. This is my personal choice, not the way you necessarily want to do it, but I quite like being able to see commands that way. So, Tim at 65 inches. So we're gonna sorry, it was a message. I think someone might be watching the stream already. So I'm on a big TV, hopefully somewhere. Anyway, so I've got these particular colouring. Feel free to jump things in the chat. It should appear on my chat window, although I have got that off to the side, so it doesn't distract me too much. But the whole point of this is to actually demonstrate to people how you don't need to have hugely complex environment to develop for the next. I've got a couple of, this is the way I've done it all the way through. Before we had lots of really nice tools, and there's some really good tools out there, you know, integrated IDE development with the C-spec debugging and all the rest of it. But I quite like writing code, throwing on a next, watching it crash and then staring at it till it starts to work. That's the way I used to write code in the 80s, and that's part of the fun for me is sort of doing the things I did back in the 80s. Even though it's a hard way of creating a lot of Z80, it's actually very good if you're a beginner. So, right, where was I? So the highlighting is available in GEDIT, which is the default editor in Linux, and you just do it through the view here. You can go highlight mode, and it's got lots of different languages. So I've added my own language called Z88DK-Z80, which is my colour scheme. And all I had to do just quickly, I've kept the command on screen, is I've got a Z80.lang file, and I just had to copy it into the global space for GTK source view 4, as it is now. It used to be 3 on the older one, so I stuck it into 4 where all the other language definitions are. So if you want a copy of that language definition, let me know. It should be easy enough to adapt for other Z80 systems as well. Yeah, it's just a bog standard Ubuntu. Hello, hi Kevin, you were not driving tonight anyway then. So it is absolutely bog standard Ubuntu 20.0, just standard GEDIT. All I've done is add that language in. Like I say, I recently upgraded to 20. I'm usually way behind the curve. So the environment I'm working in, and that's why I'm describing this for people so they know what I'm actually doing. It is just bog standard desktop. Can I see the desktop somehow? I can probably minimize this and out, and it is literally just a standard set of Ubuntu desktop which I use. So there's usual sort of tools on it. It's a mix of things. I do have Visual Studio Code obviously, but I'm doing this the simple way just so that it's easy for people to get a feel for it. And it's also the way I prefer working as well. So I'm using OBS just to build this stream, using the Blue Snowball for audio, and I've got a USB capture card in on the Next, which we see here running. So if I press a key on the Next, we can see the boot screen of the Next. I've also, I don't know whether it's come through yet, but if you need, what I haven't got is a camera pointed at the Next, but my main camera, which is pointed at me, in theory, if you need to, I can always lift it down and show you what's happening on the Next, because it's on quite a long bit of wire. But basically, I've just got my Next set up with in front of it. Yeah, let's give you a quick zoom look at the Next. So basically, it's typical cables trapped. There we go. So basically the Next is here. Let's get rid of my desktop out of it. I can do that by doing, there you go. So just so you can see the Next is set up there, and I've got a pair of Microdrive next to it, and that's a V drive in it. So that's all it is, basically bog standard Next-ish. And obviously its screen is here, there, which is running the HDMI but on a multi-sync monitor, but obviously shows up on my main monitor as well. Okay, so that's the sort of setup I got, and hopefully I haven't this down. There we are. I can put myself back into the frame. So that's where we are. Yeah, we've done that. We covered the bit well in the development environment, what the Next looks like. If you haven't watched the intro video, I have got the Next set up on, is connected to hopefully I've got it here. If I open a new window, I will need to connect to the Next. So if I got it set up, I don't know. No, I haven't. Okay, I'm going to have to set it up to connect to the Wi-Fi card, which I've got installed inside the Next, because I have got the DB Plus expansion, which is a replacement daughter board, for those who don't know about the inside of the Next. Let me see if I can find a picture of it for you. Where is it? Yeah, it should be under my Next directory, and we should have a DB plug. Let me find a photograph of it. It is a little board that replaces. Here's one of them. That's the replacement onto the header, and it's just a little card that sits in the machine instead of the normal card. So this is a test one. There's they're in development at the moment, hopefully becoming available, and obviously have to change it now with KS2, but it's quite handy because you can have a permanent card inside, which I've got a FlashAir card on. So thanks to Paul Land for that great bit of engineering. I can just dump files onto it directly from my machine if I set it up correctly, which means I've got to connect to it. So if I connect to a server is all you've got to do. So I believe by 2.168.0.16 hopefully is a WebDav. Is it? Yeah, there we go. So there's my card now, and I can go into the this is the actual Wi-Fi card on the next. So if I go into the dot directory, these are all the dots on the card, and I can I can just drop a file in there directly when I've worked on something. So that's the environment I'm working in. Let's take a little look then at the structure that I'm looking to do. I wanted to do something to make using the Microdrive slightly easier on the next. So there's going to be a couple of stages to this. I think the first one is to actually let's just build a dot command of any kind, put it on the next, prove it works. And that means we can successfully build a dot file of any kind. Doesn't matter what it is, we'll just change the name of it. And we could do something, and then we look at how the dot command works. Hopefully I can do that tonight. I will need to then go over how the next connects to the expansion bus and allows it to use things like the interface 1 by disabling onboard stuff. So that's another step to do. Whether I'll get round to that tonight, I don't know. So like I said, I've told most people it would try and be between 8 and 10. I would be live streaming, but by 9 o'clock I give them a summary update of what I've talked about in the program to date. So those who just want to dip in for 5 minutes don't have to watch the whole stream. Right, I'm talking without any plan here. So the next step, I think, is to actually take maybe either date or time. I put them both in there because they're good examples. Have a little look in the editor, what they look like, and the structure of a dot command. So it's always the best way, if you've got existing code, just to take something and move it over. Let's make the desktop a bit bigger. You don't need to see my blithering head as we're talking, really, do you? So I could add my head onto this if you really want it in small. Let's do can I do that? I don't know. Probably one of the existing ones, maybe. An existing video capture device. Me. There we go. Hopefully you're seeing me little now, and I'll stick myself down in the corner there. There we go. Right. So just the desktop mostly. Within that, we've got all the standard disclaimer we give you, which is basically if you bust the world with your work, then that's your I'll be able to do anything you like with the code. This code originally came from some stuff that was done by Victor, I think. I can't remember. Yeah, so Victor originally wrote some stuff to do with time. So this is loosely based on his code, but if you look at it, it's very different. Notice there's a bit of mixed case here. Anything that's in lowercase is possibly from the original code, and uppercase was originally from mine. That's the only reason why I'm a very scruffy Z80 coder, and there's loads of people going, oh no, and Jim's going, why don't you use lots of commands all on the one line? But this is just the way I like to code. So let's take a look at a dot command and what it means as a machine. So all dot commands are they have a code origin at OX2000, which is about halfway through the ROM in hexadecimal. So you've got 0 to 3FFF in hexadecimal, or 0 to 8192 in decimal, which is basically 163A4, 16K of ROM in the spectrum. And that effectively, these sit in the RAM that is actually in the card interface that is used to implement the SD drive, or is standard on machines that run ESX-DOS, like you can get for standard Spectrum. And that's run, we have an ESX-DOS compatible set of the hardware that's needed to run that, to handle the SD card in there. And one of the features, this all dates from ESX-DOS, and this runs with both actually. If you boot either on the next, these dot commands will work in either. And the only time they stop working in either is if you can't do it on an ESX-DOS machine for some reason, or the hardware doesn't support it. And what we're going to do here there's no point keeping ESX-DOS compatibility really, because only the next can turn off its the SX-DOS hardware while it's accessing interface 1. That wouldn't be possible if you had an external SD card interface on original Spectrum. So what else we got then? Okay. So this is the originally, as I said, was originally the date command. So it's got a bit about how all the date and everything else works, which is going to be irrelevant to us. So what we'll do, let's start doing this as a thing. We will just change it and we will call it I'm going to call it Microdrive catalog. That's the goal I'm going to try and get, is to try and it's always worth keeping your code with notes in, because you won't remember what the hell you're doing otherwise. So if I do it's a .jam for June 2022. Date, actually. There you go. Right. So MCAT, we're going to call it. I'm going to get rid of all that crap. Oops, shouldn't swear. I am using Z80ASM, but it doesn't really matter which assembly you use. They're all pretty much of the same. Keeping an eye on the time, because I said I'd do a summary of where we were at 9. So this will eventually a Microdrive on the next. Okay, I mean, for those who don't know, because the interface 1 was superseded by +3, there's a lot of overlap and incompatibility, and certainly the SD card interface on the next uses exactly the same part of the I/O space as the Microdrive. So we have to do some clever stuff about disabling all the stuff on the next, working with the Microdrive, then reinstating the next, and then so on. How much of it I might have taken on something that's impossible, and I'm just going to bite off something I can't chew, I don't know yet. I might even have to tap some help from the developers of NextZ, from Gary especially on NextZ because I don't know, does he allow the interface 1 variables to exist, and will everything still work when they do exist? There's a lot to explore, but hopefully this is more about a series of streams that will be recorded that will allow you to understand how all this tech works, as much as me achieving an actual dot command. But it'd be nice to get to the end, and one of the things I'd like to do is learn Odin myself for on machine development, because it should be able to do everything we're doing. So at some point we're going to port the working code over to Odin and start working on the machine itself, which should be quite interesting. So there's a couple of goals through the week, and by the weekend. Well, of course, we're life's bound to get in the way, isn't it? There we go. All right, so it's gonna, all dot commands have an origin at OX2000, which is where they'll be loaded in by the operating system, and they are basically any command you give it a command line that's got a dot in front of it, a full stop. You hit that, and then you put the name of the command, and it'll load you off a disk into this fixed area memory, and then it'll start running it. And when it's finished, you can either just take over the machine and dominate the world, or you can return it back to the operating system if you've done something useful and send it back, or display things on the screen. So we won't be needing the clock stuff, but I'll leave it in for the moment just so this keeps doing it. So we will, the default effect of date is just to read the date and then do something. So I don't know whether it prints any text on the screen. Does it, of any kind? If you go to -H, I can't remember what it does actually. Has it got any text at the end? Yeah, okay, there's a bit. Oh yeah, there's some date usage, so we can just do an MCAT. Let's just do this one so we can do it. So MCAT version 0.1. MCAT. And what it will do is it will show content of drive. There will be all sorts of other stuff in there, but I'm not going to use it. The only thing I need to keep is this defined by 0, which is the end of the strings. So I'm going to dump all of that lot. So now the usage message, which is pointed out by the MSG usage, is mcat 0.1 usage, and is mcat and enter, and that's all the help we're giving them at the moment. So if I now, hopefully, I think the usage command is just if you give an error, isn't it? You get the usage command if there's some sort of problem. By default, year minus end error. So basically anything that doesn't get handled by the system. So what I'm doing here is, as you come in, the first thing that happens is the main. Yeah, this main position doesn't have to be called main. I just have. So the first thing that happens is we load the H register into the A register, and then we OR it with the L register, and that means HL, the register pair that is an address, is just a 0. So if we've been sent 0 in the address, then there's no parameters being given to us, so nothing is after us on the command line. We've just got a 0. That's the end of it. So other than that, it will read the first thing into the A register that is at the address. These brackets around it will take it off of HL. Now, any programmers watching are going to be going, oh, get on with actually doing some programming. But if you haven't done any assembly language programming on the Next, then, you know, this is going to be a little bit new to you as well, because a dot command does need to be pretty much written in assembler. It is possible to write in C as well, but that's a bit more than I'm going to take. So yeah, I've just had a message. Have I advertised the stream on the group? No, I didn't. Maybe I ought to. I did put it up on Twitter, so which is what I normally do with things. So maybe I ought to post something in the group, or feel free, somebody post it in the group. So I mean, this will be available on my channel anyway as a recording. So but it might be worth it with the 9 o'clock news coming up now on where we are and what we're doing. So this is my first ever stream, so treat me carefully. Right. I don't actually know whether anyone's watching, are they? I haven't had a lot of comments. Actually, I've only got top comments, not all messages. So there we are, that's a problem. That would help, wouldn't it? Right, so basically I get the content of that and then I deal with all the other stuff, because most dot commands have options after a little dash. So basically the command will do something by default if you just say nothing, and then if you put a dash in it, you can set parameters. So what we're going to do is, if we in this situation, if I do a .mcat space and a minus and nothing else, it'll be an error because we haven't given anything. We should get the end error and it should print our usage command that says mcat. Good. Oh, well, there we are. That's excellent. So thanks, Kevin. I appreciate the update that it's all working okay. Because it would be a bit ironic if the chat wasn't coming through. So right, where are we? Trying to keep an eye on the messages coming in on my phone as well, in case I've done something silly. I've hopefully left the I'll try, hopefully the noise from other things incoming aren't too bad. So everything's showing as healthy on here anyway, so it's not bad. Oh, thanks, Neil. I appreciate the support and the thumbs up. That is appreciated. So it's a bit dark here because I'm doing it through OBS. You get no feedback whatsoever on what's happening on the stream. So it might be handy there. There's no display of anyone watching or anything. It's just like silence. But not having the chat window open didn't help. Okay, great. So basically then, this is where we are, and I'm going to do that. Now, I've done everything I need to do, so I hit the save button. I mean, this is really laborious, but it's close to back we did back in the day. I would have done exactly the same thing. I'm not going to exit out of the editor because I'm a bit lazy. But the next step then is to rename this date.asm. I'm going to rename it to mcat. And that is now our I did do time, didn't I? I did do date, not time. I've forgotten completely. Yes, it was called date.asm. So, right, okay, so I'm now going to have to save it as. I'll have to exit because it's gone. Cancel. Save. Exit. Okay. So, I wasn't sure whether I'd saved it, so I'll rename it. Right, I should have exited it because I'm going to rename it. Right, so when I open mcat.asm, it's still got all of that in there. And it's all up here, ready to go. Okay, excellent. So the next step now is in my command line, which I've got here. I've got two of them open. Let's close the other one because you don't need that now. I've shown you where the language best stuff is. So I'll just quickly go into this. So the next thing I'm going to do now from the command line, and again, you can automate. You can see the Odin window, can you? I haven't got Odin open at the moment. Yeah, Jim, I'm using SBASM if you joined later. I'm using GEDIT in Linux at the moment. So that's the next itself has got Odin on it. But let's just do something quickly. So I'm showing you the next now. So from the command line, if I do a .mcat, there is no .mcat command and no such command as I would expect. Odin is on here, but I'm not using it at the moment. For those who haven't seen it, Odin is a command line editor which can be used from the next. I don't know how to exit it. How do you exit Odin? Extension plus Q. So extend mode Q. There we go. Right, so I'm now back to my machine. So if I now... thanks, Jim. That's all right then. So we're back here now. I've got this open. And I can, that one, yeah, that's definitely that view we were working in. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to assemble this program. So I'm just going to use ZATASM in this case by hand, and it's going to be the mcat, just to show you I'm in the same directory. So if I ls-l, there's mcat.asm there. So I'm going to ZATASM. This is very laborious for anyone who's used to developing at a rapid rate, but I'm trying to, it's trying to be a beginner stream as well. So there we are. It doesn't seem to have done much apparently, but if I do ls-l, you look at the script here, I've now got an mcat.o, which is the default output file from an assembler. That's ready, linked and ready to go, I believe. So assuming I've done things right. So I'm just actually going to rename that a minute. And now I will obviously script all this as we move on in development, but I'm just going to call it mcat in capitals. So now, if I right click and copy my mcat, and I go to my directory, which is my .commands, and I paste my .command in, mcat, then if I do an mcat, we go back to the next, and I do an mcat, and I put a minus sign in because that's going to give us an error. No, that's an underline. Where's a minus sign gone there on the load? Right, so if we do an mcat minus, I'm expecting to get an error. And it crashes. Good start. Oh, welcome to development, guys. Welcome to development. What have I done wrong? Oh, great. Okay. .mcat. Just do mcat. And it crashes. Interesting. So much for that. This is exactly why you want to make sure you saw how little they changed on that code. There should be no reason why that won't work. Oh, hang on a minute. If Alan was watching me going, no, you haven't auto-linked it. And I haven't because the SBASM build is right. I know what I've done. So I'm going to delete that mcat off of my machine. I'm going to delete that one. yeah, I've been a right... Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I've been a right idiot. I said, oh, that'll be linked ready, and I bet you it hasn't because I didn't use the right build command because it's so long since I've done it in the command line. So if we go back into the wrong one, let's go back into mcat.asm. Right, I'll explain what happened in a minute, but let's have a little look at Manage external tools, ZATyasm. So I suspect the problem is I didn't do the build right. Now, just out of interest, go back in and right, and I do MCAT. Right, okay. So hopefully now I have a file. We'll explain what happened just now, and everyone can laugh at me. But it is 9 o'clock. yeah. Jim's realised what I did. I didn't actually link. Oh, sorry. Right. Okay, I'm going to show you what I just did, all right? And everyone's going to laugh. Okay, right. Now, I've worked it out. Like I said, I always stare at code. So here's what actually happened. I went into my assembler and I looked at my external tools, and I've got Control plus F7 set up to build the project. I was trying to do it by hand, but obviously that didn't work because I was missing some of these parameters. ZATyasm is a fairly yucky assembler. I picked it for historical reasons. Good evening, Andy. You all right, mate? Nice. Oh, I've got some people joining for the 9 o'clock news. Great. So I was just demonstrating how rubbish I was. Well, no. Jim's done those all the way. This is really basic tutorial. So thanks, mate. Most experienced ZAT assembler users are going to be, but I'm hoping that anyone can be able to build a dot command by the end of the week if they follow through with what I'm doing. And you can use all sorts of tools. It's just a text editor and assembler of any kind. I'm hopefully going to have a go at building this in a minute with a different ZAT assembler because the code is just so easily usable. Right. So what I'd done is I hadn't given the right set of commands basically to the program, the assembler. So then when I ran the assembler again, ZATyasm built itself, assembled MCATyasm to MCAT.o, and that's now created a 753 byte module with a code size from 2002 to F0. The O is an object, without saying what you're doing, without linking it automatically, you basically end up with what's called an object code file that can be linked to lots of different objects, because the reason I use ZATyasm is that if you want to write C as well, you can link it all together. So it's just a habit I got, and some of the code's written in it from very early on. Yes, I can see rolling eyes. Right. Yeah, you'll just have to take little old Tim for ZAT basic assembly language lessons. Well, Jim's voice is out of action. Right. Where are we then? Okay. So for those who joined us at the promised 9 o'clock stream, I've just a quick summary of what I'm doing. I've shown people a build environment I've got. Yeah, it's very easy, too easy in fact. So what I've done is I've shown people how I use the GEDIT for editing a file. I've taken the existing date program from the source directory. We've explained how a dot file is basically just a bit of assembly language at hex 2000, which is 4096 in decimal, is it? Quickly in my head. Yeah, I think so. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Right. You basically then, I've taken that, I've shown people how I use a bit of custom language definition to allow my ZAT DKyasm to be prettified in colour, and I have some choices where numbers are highlighted. I can see text in yellow, I've got pink for the actual command, and I've got the parameters are in sort of light blue, and then I've got the text and labels in white, and then everything else in purple under the particular colour scheme I use. So, we got quite a few people joining now by the looks of it. Kevin, the Acorn, that's a 6502 machine. So I love 6502 machines. They're great. I've got a couple myself. So 6502 users welcome, but just see the power and superior nature of the Z80 and live in awe at its ability to do it. So yeah, well done. Yeah, I think that's a good point. That you know, it is. That's exactly why it's a good one to use. But it does take a little bit of underlying knowledge of the assembler to use it outside of the Z88DK environment. So which is why it can seem a little bit hard going. A couple of things are a little bit different in it. There we go. So I'm glad to see Dee has joined us on the stream. Welcome. So there's a couple here now. Right. So we that's where we got to. I've shown how I'm highlighting it. I just use a command line to do basically assemble it, and then I also have a machine in the mapped here on a WebDav connection, which is on my FlashAir inside my Next. That's the one I boot from because I got a DB Plus card in there, so I just press a green button and boot straight to it. That is the current version of Next ZXOS and updated, so what you see is what you got. And I can just drop the file directly onto the directory, which is easy to see what's going on. Obviously, like I said, it's much easier to script all this. Oh, yeah, fair enough. The Atom. You've done it on the Atom as well, have you? I didn't know you'd done it on the Atom. Wow. Nice one. Jim was just saying he did Dragon's Lair for the Atom as well. I just downloaded your ZX81 Dragon's Lair because I finally got hold of a Z Expand. So my next one of my, keep an eye open. I've got this converted to composite, so I should be able to do a stream of playing Dragon's Lair on the ZX81 on the channel for those who are interested. So yeah. It was 6510 was basically a 6502 with some extra stuff. Anyway, I was told not to pay attention to two. Hey, we got Mr. Sif. David has joined as well. Yeah. So I've been trying to get a Z Expand for ages because it makes the ZX81 really useful. I actually do a lot. For those who don't know, the Next is a really good ZX81 machine. The profile for it can do a heck of a lot. I can run all my old ZX81 software on it fine. It's a really good machine to just generally. But it is something, about using original hardware as well. And I got quite a lot of ZX81 hardware that I want to interface to and things like that. So I want to have a few play with some old stuff I've got. Yeah, it is. It's really clever. For those who don't know, the Z Expand is Sir Morris, I think, is the manufacturer. It does little spurts of them on Selma Retro. It's well worth it. Well worth it. It makes the ZX81 really, really usable as a machine. So just load basic SD card, joystick interface. It's just, and it fits in a Mematech case as well. I've got an old dead Mematech I can put it in for the moment. I'm in the middle of repairing. Anyway, we are getting distracted. So for the news. So we got as far as this, that I can now drop a dot command on you, which allows me to simply drop in what I've built. Now, in theory, I have now got a binary file, and if I rename that binary file to MCAT, and I now copy that binary file onto my dot command, and I paste it in here, right. So the MCAT is now present on the drive on the Next. So if we go back over to the Next itself, which is currently doing its lovely screensaver, and we go into the command line, now I should be able to type MCAT again with a dash and MCAT version 0.1 usage, MCAT enter. So there we go. Our dot command in its very basic form is now actually working. And I think the reason I'm sort of doing this way really is the fact that it's so easy to get distracted by the... Yeah, it's a FlashAir. Sorry, I should have said that. It's a FlashAir built into the DB+, so I'm just dropping it down using the WebDav protocol here on this. I'm trying to move it on the wrong screen. Can't move little windows in the D. So... yeah, so it's basically, this is a FlashAir view of my card, and it's pretty quick as well. We're doing it. I know we say not to do it, but I do update my operating system. I don't take the machine apart to pull it out. I update my operating system over the air and everything on it, so that the card is. And the way the FlashAir is set up, by the way, is it's a bit unusual in that I've got it in a dual mode where it's both a station and my mobile connects through it, and then that's onward onto the ongoing the network above. So the mobile keeps the thing alive, and the moment I turn it on, because the mobile's always trying to connect to its access point, it'll keep it energized and working. So when you want to go in with a WebDav protocol, it's there. So it's quite handy, and it makes it a very stable development platform. You know, and you can access it through your normal network like this. So it's very, you know, it's a great way of doing it. It's a shame they don't make them anymore. We've got other ways of doing this now, obviously, and there's loads of ways that are really good, and we'll hopefully, well, I'll do a lot more of this sort of stuff if it's of interest to people, showing you all the different ways you can develop it. This is just the way I've done it since the early days. So, yeah. So, I think there's several different ways to use them and quite a bit of guidance, but I quite like this because it's all in one place, and I'm not a very adventurous sort of programmer. I like doing this sort of method. I know it well. It's very similar to what I did back in the day. Compile, edit, send it over the serial link to the Spectrum, see if it works. You can use the on-machine debuggers, which are really good. Now we've got quite a lot of onboard power as well. So it's pretty good. So right. Sorry, lots of people responding and taking tweets. So we got as far as this position. I've got a dot command that actually runs. I can assemble it with the Z80ASM assembler, and I can edit the file easily and quickly. So if I go back to my desktop, and I go back into my MCAT file, MCAT.asm, I can now go back in and we can make as many changes as we need to, because we've got a basic Microdrive command that can do something. So I suppose the next thing really is to start exploring what it means to use a Microdrive on Spectrum Next, which is covered in this file here, expansionbus.txt. So this will be a little bit of a dive into the expansion bus. So it's got a standard Spectrum expansion bus on it. There are some changes and differences. I mean, there's been a lot of hoo-ha about the voltages on the expansion bus, but you know, they're reasonably tolerant. I mean, I've been plugging and unplugging lots of peripherals into mine, not when it's turned on, and they're pretty good. The new one will have a lot better ability to protect the bus and to drive more devices as well. Hopefully the board revisions add quite a few extras in it that are worth doing. Now, so the key here is this sort of thing. There's two major issues which are highlighted. One is that the bus always operates at 3.5 meg, so the Next will always be slowed down to traditional Spectrum speed, which is fine when you actually enable the bus, because by default the bus is not on. And there are basically the way that, if for those who've done Z80 6502 programming, the 6502 has got memory map peripherals, so stuff appears in memory. On a Z80 you've got actually a complete address space. Very often only the first 8 bits of the address bus are used, over from the 8080 days, and therefore the I/O ports, as they're called, are basically just an alternate address map. So you've got a select line for memory, and you've got a select line for I/O, and it's got some special commands called in and out that handle setting those bits and controlling the memory and taking the address from it. So the important thing there is that those I/O cycles that happen out onto the bus, there's a limited amount of space, and very early Spectrum devices they decoded quite a lot of the bus very simply. I mean, some of one of the biggest ones is the ULA on the Spectrum itself, which basically just looks at one bit of the address and says, is that me? Yeah, okay, that must be for me then, because it's I think it's odd numbered or even numbered addresses. Because it was so long ago, I can't even remember. But anyway, regardless of that, so there's a lot of these addresses that are have been reused. There have been attempts over the years to try and get a complete list. I mean, but lots of different peripherals use the same ones. So the bottom line is the SD card interface, which is on the next, ends up utilising the same sort of addresses as some of the ones that are needed from interface 1. Now, the way the Next handles this is it's got some control bits, which are basically, again, just a register Next reg is just an I/O port actually, or there's an internal way of doing it. But you're basically sending a piece of information to an I/O port. For those who know where the register is, just a storage area for the machine. So basically, you're sending out a number of a register, and out of that into that register, you're writing a value, and the Next stores or uses those values. And if you do an in from that register, you can read what the contents of the register is very often, or something related to it. So in BASIC, you'll have seen this. You can do out 9275, and the register number, and then out 9531, like this, that allow you to do something. So it's a roundabout way you can send commands that are stuck into the configuration of the system. And it's got a number of ports, which it does, which are these. They're in hex here and in decimal here, but they basically control the expansion, the things that are on the expansion bus. So here, for example, is the div MMC, which unfortunately is in use, things like multi-face, some well-known things like port 1F, which is the in31 for the Kempston joystick, which is also used for MD, these things, the pads from the Mega Drive. That's it, thank you. Okay, so through these 4 ports, we can control what the Next thinks about seeing and what it decides to send out onto the bus to see if something plugged externally can do it. And that's the clever bit about the Next, is it can have some of its onboard kit working and some of its offboard kit working. A good example of it is the ZX printer, which when you first reset a Next and you go in, you have got you can do a couple of things that are built into it. One of them is you can launch these cartridges if you've got interface 2 on, and that will allow you to play external cartridges, and it does that by just turning off the stuff, turning the external connection on, and then triggering it so that the card starts up and the ROM is replaced with the Spectrum ROM. And you can also do from here, I think from the NMI menu, if you press it, you've got here screenshot, and you can just hit the print button. If you've got a ZX printer or a ZX compatible printer, it will print out the contents of the screen on the Next. And it does that by turning off the bits that conflict with the printer, turning the bus on, printing out to the ZX printer, then re-enabling it all, and then coming back into the system. So it's by doing this sort of context switching, you can move between one peripheral and another. Sorry if this is getting a bit heavy, but it's what we need to do to understand why we can't use a Microdrive and just do a cat as you do on the SD card. So if I exit back out again, I've got a command line. Obviously from here I can just do a .ls to look at what's on the actual card. That's fine. But what we want to do is be able to do a .mcat to look at what's on the Microdrive next to me. So that's where we want to get to. So that means we need to basically, because the SD card is using the same ports, we need to disable the onboard SD card temporarily, enable the interface, turn on the Microdrive expansion and anything we need to, handle the Microdrive, and then come back again, turn the card back on and go back to NextZXOS, and that should allow us to do it, because NextZXOS shouldn't care that the SD card stuff's off while it does the print into the screen and things like that, although I might be wrong on that one. Here be monsters coming. Okay, so let's go scrape all the way down through here. There's quite a bit of a description of this about how it all works. There is this port, this register 128, which is the expansion bus. That's worth bearing in mind, and it's got two halves of it. Each nibble of the machine is what happens immediately. If you do anything in bits here, if you do anything in bits 7, 6, 5 or 4, it happens immediately now. The next will do it there and then. And if you do it in the lower nibble, in bits 0, 1, 2 and 3, then it will basically do that the next time you do a soft reset. So you can set stuff up to be ready the next time you turn on. And that's quite important for things like the interface 1, where the interface 1's ROM expects to run and set itself up before you use it. So there we are. Okay. With that in mind, then we've got these 4 registers allow us to set what bits of the next keep on working, and also we've got which bits of the next actually allow us to set up and use external peripherals, which is what the interface 1 is basically. Right. So here's some stuff about using joysticks, the interface 2 and the interface 1. So basically, I don't think, I can't remember whether the 1381 is needed. I think we fixed that now. No, I can never remember. I still type it. But in theory now, if with just these commands and then a soft reset, so basically all I'm doing in port 135 is setting the number to 246. So if we look at 135 further up here, which was the port that is related to this one, I think. We're setting it to 246. Why have I not got it in there? 135 is these ones, expansion bus decoding, yeah. Okay, so we're basically setting port, I think it's this one, which we're effectively turning off div MMC by setting 246, because it's the lower bit isn't used. So we need to decode that and have a little look at it. I can't remember, it's a long time ago I've done it. So in theory, I should be able to do a catalog on a drive, but I can't do this from the mode on the next at the moment. I need to actually be in ingesting 48k mode. I've never tried it from here, but apparently the 48k basic from here is now pretty close to a real 48k basic. So, but it still allows this to work. So in theory, in here, we should be able to do these outs in here. I've never tried this. This is experimental. I don't know whether anyone else has done it. But in theory, 9275. I normally set up a profile and join it as an actual 48k machine. So 9275, 135, and then a colon, and then out 9531, comma 128. No, sorry, don't get ahead of yourself. 246 to set the enable, and then I need to do an out 9275, comma 128, and then out 9531, comma 8. Now I'm going to type in the command to do a reset, which is the basically out 9275, comma 2. Rather than pressing the red button on the machine, because if you press it for too long, it obviously resets it completely. 2 colon out 9531, comma 1. I wouldn't think this might just take me back into next ZX, so I can't remember. Yeah, it did. That's a shame. Doesn't really help, does it? You're gonna have to be in 48k mode. We might be able to get away with these commands in it, but what I'll do, I'll reset the machine into 48k mode. Is this going to lose the sync on the signal? Right, as suspected, I might have to turn the next off to do this. Okay, I struck a problem. I can't reset my next into 48K mode, probably because I'm booting from my onboard card. And for some reason it can't. I've been writing well, I know why. I've been writing files to the FlashAir from my machine, which sets the card into read-only mode. So I can't actually set the config easily. So I'm going to have to turn it off and back on again. Now it's coming up to 9:25, so we'll reset the capture card, and I'll go into 48K mode on the next as I turn it on. So that when you next see the capture, it will be in 48K mode. Okay, now I should be able to reset the capture. So hopefully the audio's back now, and you can now see the 48K prompt from the machine. I've actually got ESX-DOS loaded now, not next ZXOS, so it should still do an LS. Yes, it does. Okay, and in theory MCAT should still work. Probably won't actually, no such command, because it's not in the directory. So if we go to I will have to actually put a copy of my MCAT command. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's one of the things I need to be wary of when I reset the capture card. It tries to take the non-existent audio from the capture card, because there is no audio capture, and it uses as a primary audio for the stream. So luckily enough, I did test that before this, and it is one of the only bugbears in my setup. So anyway, I'm going to take a copy of the MCAT now, and I'm going to dump it into the other directory that's on my card. If I go back into the top level, obviously the commands for ESX-DOS come from the bin directory, not from the dot directory. So those who don't know the difference, they have a different set of commands. So now when I go into there, I should be able to do my MCAT from here. Here we go, which is gave me the date as it should do, because I didn't do the error. If I give it an error, it is our MCAT command. So as I said, the command will work on either ESX-DOS or next ZXOS. So now I should be able to repeat my couple of commands to do the out, and then when I reset the box, it'll still be in this command. Yeah, no, I know, they're really annoying. Jim, it's like the thing dynamically creates names in Linux as well, and then OBS tries to reconnect to the original video / I'm sure there's someone who knows it well enough would be able to get it working again. So there we go. I get it in Teams all the time in work as well, where you've been using it on the dock, and you come off the dock and you go in a room, and all of a sudden the audio's still trying to use the dock that's not there anymore. So there we go. Right, where was I? So we've now got an ESX-DOS file, so I'm going to go back to my little bit of command line. I'm just going to leave that in the corner there so we can see it. Oop, wrong, moving next. So I'm going to leave that in the corner so we can see it, hopefully without obscuring my machine. And I am going to go back to my bit of text, which I was doing in that one, was it? There we go. Which has got the outs I need to do. So now I'm going to do them again, and hopefully it'll work this time. So 9275,138. So basically I am setting register 138 to 9531,246. So I'm setting just the value 246 in there. And for those who are wondering, let's have a little look. So if I do 246, this is my calculator I've had since the 80s for programming, so always handy. So 246 in decimal. Anyone remember what that is in binary quick? Oh, thank you, D. I'll write that down. V4L by ID tree. Thank you, sir. I will go and investigate. You have to remember, of course, my OBS live streaming technique started yesterday at 7 p.m. So I had to learn all that to do this. I hadn't really thought about that until the last second. So I'm now going to set mode without eyeballs. I'm going to set mode of where's the little thing for it? Binary is mode. I'm getting old, I can't see. Mode 3, I think, isn't it? No, mode 1, there we go. So basically we've got 2 bits that aren't set. It's the lowest bit, and so bit 0 and bit 3 aren't set in that register. So I'm hoping if we look back up at that, we might be able to work out which one it is. So bit 0 and bit 3. So I think it's this one, and the probably 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so it's these. There we are. That's the 2. So it's 8 and M. So I think it's the 7 EB. So it's the SPI interface. Thank you very much. Yes. But my trusty calculator, it's the delay. I know you did it before I did, but basically I was just interested to remember what it is. So it is basically div MMC control that's got to be off, and obviously the SPI interface. So SPI is the little serial interface that's used to talk to the SD card, and they do correspond with addresses used by the interface 1. But I think they are the only 2. I know the guide we give says just turn off everything in all of them, so just disable all. But in theory, we should just, and I want to be very picky about what I got to turn off so I don't damage the rest of the things that are running in the machine. So my plan is just to turn those 2 bits off, work with the Microdrive. I mean, ideally, I'd love to get the Microdrive actually fully working so the interface 1 ROM works with the modified 8K ROM that carries, but that might be longer term. Initially, we might have to put all our code in the dot command that handles the Microdrive, which could be quite tasty. So, like I said, maybe a bit off more than I can chew this week, but it's worth a try. And if nobody tries, we'll never know whether it was possible. So let's carry on typing now we know what we're doing. Lost my bit of page now without it. I really can't remember stuff unless I'm getting unless I got it written down in front of me these days. So it's these ones I'm putting in. So out 9275, comma. So I'm setting now the what happens on a reset. So the setting by setting, is it 8? I can't. Or does that change now? No. Again, just so you remember what 8 is doing. 8 is on the port 128, which is basically setting this one. So by setting an 8 on it, after a soft reset, enable the expansion bus. So that's what we're doing by setting 8 into the register 128. Okay, so interface 1 is ready to go. And like I said, rather than pressing the reset key, I am going to do a reset from the command line. Because on with interface 1 connected, it's quite hard to get to the reset command. Oops, don't want to beep, you're an out. 953, it's going to make a beep, I'm sure. Comma 1. Okay, so now in theory, when it reboots, the Microdrive should be working. Right, now if I do a cat, should get a Microdrive not present maybe. It's not a good start. Okay. Never do anything live with kids. No. I'm going to have to reset that again, I think. I got a feeling NextZXOS was loading, wasn't it? So let's try it without NextZXOS. I'll turn off DivMMC just in case it's caused a problem. Yeah, thanks, Ped. This is the best way, and it involves me not having to turn it off and now losing the capture stream, which means we'll lose the audio on the stream as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to disable the interface on boot up. It's a shame that this can't capture the startup screens of the Next. Was this right? Okay. Okay, so let's reset the capture. I'll investigate. Okay, audio should be back onto the stream, and we should now just be able to reset the okay, so I'm hoping this is now a non yeah, I hopefully the audio's back again now. Yeah, good. There we go. Sorry, yeah, it takes me a moment to realise I'm talking to thin air after I reset the capture. So, right. But hopefully now we're back again. So, yeah, I think I only use, I think you should only need those two, basically. It's just to say, because you can then, now I've effectively disabled it in the boot menu. So DivMMC hardware and everything is off in the boot menu. So don't need to do that out. I should just be able to do the two, which Mike's, said, 9275, comma 128, colon, out. In fact, it should be possible. The reason we've got to do it this way on boot, as I said earlier, is that you've got to allow the interface 1 to come up, which basically, when on a reboot, the interface 1 ROM will flick in, set up all the Microdrive variables and everything for you. So that's why we can't just do an out 9275.128, comma out 9531, comma 128 and turn the bus on straight away. Because if we do that, the Microdrive isn't initialized. So hopefully this should just work now. And I should be able to do a cat. Nope. Oh, yeah, and it's just done a bleep. I don't know if you heard the bleep. And hopefully, there we go. So that's a catalog card. So that was the V drive, but if I prove we've actually got I use the 128K model just because it's convenient for typing quickly on the lovely Next keyboard right now to put. There we go. So that was actually a physical Microdrive spinning. You should have just heard it spinning there. So it does work. And if I do an MCAT, we should still have that available. Nope. No, we haven't, because I've got no SD card. But I should be able to turn the interface back off and be able to flick back to it now. So if I do an out 9275, comma 128, oops, colon out 9531, comma 0, and then out. See, forgot I was in the out 9275, comma 2, out 9531. Now you see why I want to do some dot commands to make all this a lot quicker. In fact, we could make the dot command maybe just do the initial one. Okay, so out 9531, comma, what did I have to do to get it to reset 1 in it? I think. Now in theory, now I'm back in the 1 to 8K basic, I should be able to do an LS. No, why can't I? Oh, I haven't got ESX-DOS loaded. So, was it ESX-DOS that was causing the compatibility problem? I don't know. Why didn't it work when ESX-DOS was on there? It always has in the past. So, let's try going back into 48K basic with it turned on. Yeah, that's the plan, Jim, is that eventually I'll have a dot command to do all sorts of stuff. So, you know, because it's... yeah, right. If I get it working again, I'm going to point the webcam at the Microdrive and you can see the little red light spinning around, all right? So no one believes I've got a real Microdrive there. So now I'm back into 48K. Here we go. I'll restore the audio in a moment I reset the capture. There we go. Audio should be back. And we should have the actual machine. Right, I'm going to have one more go now because this has got ESX-DOS working again. And I'm going to do the outs quickly just to get us all going again. So now of course I've got to do the So that's what I basically have to... I mean, one quick way you can do this, for those who you're obviously... And I have shown a few people this, is... Oh, I pressed the edit button on the next. Shot myself in the foot there, didn't I? I mean, if you're doing this a lot, which you do have to when you're messing around with it, you can just obviously do a quick... and then, of course, you can just use the, you know, for good old spectrumers, of course, you can just edit the line quickly. And you can even do it take the 0 out and just do it as 1, 2, and 3. 2. And then you can just run and get rid of it. Right, now let's try again. Yes, it worked this time. I think what it was is the connector of the Microdrive was a little bit loose, so it didn't really work. So there we are, we've got it. So as I promised, we get our roving camera. Okay, there is the machine. You can see what I'm typing on the screen. So if I do a single shift, cap shift, cap. Can't use it left-handed. How do I get that camera? It's not quite long enough to just sit there and look at it. There we go. Hopefully you can see the drives. Nah, not a very good view of them, is it? There we go. Here we are, the drives are visible. Can I do it all, got all three? There we go. Hopefully you can see the drive as well. Right. There's your drives. There's your commands, and I do cat, oops, don't put your hand in front, cat 3, it really is a Microdrive. There we are, the light flashed. Right, so there we are, it's a test pass. So of course we can flick back now to NextZXOS just by doing that out command and going back again and back and forth, which is the idea. So that's the theory of what I'm trying to achieve this week, is a dot command to take the pain out of that. Oops. Oh, I'm over the side now. Don't ever fiddle with you. I'm going to get another camera hooked up to look at what's happening on the desktop, I think. So there we go. Right. So that's the theory. Everything that's tested and working, which is what I wanted to make do tonight, that I could actually get the Microdrives to work. I can boot into ESXDOS, I can boot in the NextZXOS. I can flip between using Microdrive and the normal NextZXOS and the ESXDOS commands. Everybody hopefully understands the reason why we're having to do this, because of the fiddles. We've got a yeah, okay, right. So we got it's just my magic finger, it's ET phone home, lights everything up. So for tomorrow night, for the end of the week, I shall get as many Microdrives as I can and stick them off the end of the desk, all right? Right. So what we got is we've got the ability to edit a program and look at it, which is the one that we're doing here, which is mcap.asm. So we know how to highlight it and make it look nice for us to work on the command. Makes it easier as a user to be able to see what you're doing. Oh, I can't look at myself at an angle. This looks ridiculous. Let's flatten that out a bit. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Right, don't move your webcam. You can never get it back to where it was. There we go. Right. People are going, what the hell's he doing? It looks completely crazy out now, doesn't it? It looks like my H8's about to fall off the planet. So we now, how to highlight it, how to go into the command line, very simply, be able to assemble a command. I could obviously automate that now in GEDIT, so I can just hit Control F7, it'll build it for me. I just take the bin file that's produced, which is just a binary set of bytes of our command line, and I copy that over to my directory using the WebDav protocol on the FlashAir, and then we can just run it from the next. So it should be easy from this point on, he says, to actually look at the problem. We understand the problem, which is that we need to be able to flip the hardware on and off and do stuff. So the next step is really probably going to be working out how to do a catalog on the Microdrive. Now, my thinking is trying to use the Spectrum Shadow ROM is going to be a lot of work, because for those who don't know, this switches in and out quite a lot, and really relies on a Spectrum ROM being present. Now, in ESX-DOS, we can probably do that. We can just use the shadow ROM. So I might initially just do this under ESX-DOS. So there's a .mcat under ESX-DOS, because we can just call the catalog in the ROM. But longer term, I think that might be a little bit more difficult to do. And I think there is in one of these two books, which one's by Purnell? That's Logan or Purnell. They've got a full catalog command that's an extended catalog. I think it's this one. I don't know whether it's available online as source code anywhere we can grab. But basically, I'm sure there's a catalog in here. There's a stream stuff. One of them's got a catalog command, basically, that's more powerful and doesn't use the ROM easily. It doesn't use much of the ROM. So we should be able to pull that out and use as a complete bit of command to just stick into our bones we got. And that will allow us to do a catalog, I hope, of a Microdrive from an XZ-Exos dot. And it should work in ESX-DOS, definitely. It should work in XZ-Exos as well, as long as the Microdrive variables have been initialized. So I'm probably, I don't think Gary's watching the stream, but I might have a little bit of a think about how we can get, if XZ-Exos can have all the Microdrive variables created, because the other thing we could do is we could do like a mdrive init command that initialize, I'm thinking out loud here, that initializes the Microdrive variables the same as the ROM would, and then allows us to flick back and forth, because they're created, for those who don't know, that Spectrum interface 1 relies on a pile of extra variables that are created just before the basic program area that's on the end of the existing system variables. So in theory, we should be able to expand that space up and not affect the operation of XZ-Exos, I'm hoping. If so, we can definitely have a fairly tightly integrated connection back to the original Microdrives. And I know at least one person has got a modern Interface 1 clone underway, because you've got the ULA has been recreated. You can get the V drives and cases for it. So in theory, anybody can get a Microdrive experience. So it's likely to become more important moving forward that the next can use it, because really it won't be just about the old-fashioned ones. You'll be able to use the new as well. So that's where I'm hoping to go. It's coming up to an hour's stream now. I said I'd try and do 9 till 10. I don't know whether anyone's got any sort of questions or wants me to go over anything on what I've covered tonight, but this is just basically setting a scene tonight. I'm hoping to be back online tomorrow, maybe by 8 o'clock. If it'd probably be closer to 9, because I've got quite a lot to do after work tomorrow, running around family stuff, so it might be 9 o'clock. But at that point, I really want to sort of start looking at what's involved in getting the code for a Microdrive catalog running to just stand alone, so we can switch off the in assembly language. You'll do those basic commands, turn off the interface, do something with the Microdrive, maybe we'll just spin it and then turn it back on again and go back. So basically it's the sort of a little bit of this, in modern terms you call it RAD, I suppose. You do, DevOps, just do a little bit, deploy it, try it, do a little bit, deploy it, and we'll get to a minimum viable product at the end without hopefully having to spend hours debugging 15 pages of code we've written. So the idea is to step forward each time and get a framework, and at the end of the .jam, hopefully we'll have a basic framework of a Microdrive command that people can build out more expansive stuff. There we go. So 6 minutes left, I think, of the stream, so I'm gonna, unless some questions come in, I think we're gonna. It's really annoying me. Hopefully, people have enjoyed the format. It hasn't been too bad. Over a few hiccups on the stream, but I think it's a useful way of trying to provide a resource for the future as well. Really good. There we go then. Obviously, I'll try and put all this together in a document at the end as well. But great. All right. Well, hopefully you've all enjoyed it. I'm gonna make it disappear, I think, and we'll see you again tomorrow night for another thrilling instalment of the .jam June 2022 Total Chaos edition. Brilliant. I really appreciate those who've watched live as well. That makes it less like I'm talking to empty air, really. Which is, when you're recording a video, you know that someone's going to watch it at a later date. But a live stream, it's the way it works. So there we are, and hopefully the tech has held up for us apart from the audio loss when we have to reset the capture stream. So we're doing all right. We've just got there we are. So the next is there, and that, I think the cart A, just to prove it is a full cart. So if I do a slowed star M semicolon 1 semicolon quotes Howard quotes anyone remember where it is? Screen dollar is screen dollar, and then go. That Microdrive should load a file. There we go, and that's a sort of pencil sketch done on a Spectrum of my dad by a guy called Steiner many years ago. So, and it's one of the first things I recovered off of an old cart, and was really nice to see, you know. And it's why it's worth preserving some of these old cartridges. And this you know, will hopefully make it done, because I got about 40 I haven't done yet because it's so fiddly. So there we go then. I'm going to say goodnight. We finished the stream a little bit early. Thanks, guys, everybody, for joining the stream, and hopefully you'll dip in and out as it happens over the next couple of weeks. I think MCAT is saved. It is indeed. So we're ready to go. I'm going to exit out of my that file. And those who haven't got a copy, this is available online. I think Programming the Z80 by Rodney Zacks. It really is the Bible. You know, my copy is starting to show its age. It's been used since the 80s. I think you know, it's pretty much just a collection of loose pages now in a folder. But you know, it's a lovely processor to learn on. So yeah, no problem. Anyone who wants to know how I achieved this, I'm more than happy to help on anything, both the technical and the streaming stuff. So don't do it the way I do it, though. Set a permanent camera up. And I do need a camera, I think. I'll buy another camera for a look at the hardware. So I did try actually using my full camera connected to my HDMI, but then I realised I needed that for the Spectrum because I only got one HDMI capture. But it's all been done with fairly low cost stuff off of eBay and that. I've been building it up over the time. So there we go, cracking. Good night, everybody. I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, which should stop it all in its tracks. And yeah, no, they are very poorly bound. I agree. So. But it doesn't matter. It's also out. You know, I read it about 10 times more than anyone did. I spent my entire youth poring over the pages of this book, just thinking, oh, what could I do with that? What could I do with that? So I remember when I did the driver for the date time, Gary said, "Cool, someone who's actually used the BCD instruction." So I'll leave you with that thought. Right, genuinely going. Night all. See you all. Good night.